Your school library might be in jeopardy. Librarians are warning that Ontario's new funding model puts them at risk. Until this spring, school libraries had government funding that was specifically earmarked for them. But the new model lumps libraries into a learning resources fund, and they'll share from the same pool as guidance counselors and school supplies. Michelle Arbuckle is the executive director of the Ontario Library Association, and she's with us in studio this morning. Great to have you here. I hope you feel at home. We set up a little library for you.
I couldn't feel more at home. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie.
Listen, let's talk first of all about how libraries and the role of libraries in schools has really changed over the decades.
Absolutely. School libraries are constantly evolving to meet the needs of kids. There's so many well-resourced libraries that are doing incredible things with technology, with maker spaces, robotics, and things like that. Technology is always an important part of what school libraries are introducing kids to, that hands-on learning. But just as important as ever, books and reading, still really important. Having a genuine interest in reading helps kids improve their literacy skills, which helps them not only in their schooling, but in their whole life.
And we know that. There's countless studies with evidence behind that. In 2021, the Ontario government brought in the now scrapped measures that require school boards to earmark money for school libraries and how that's being spent. So were those measures working?
So in April of this year, we were told that the new core funding model was being introduced, and it was really, we were told it was to, in a more simple way, explain to parents how funding was allocated. There are three main implications, though, for school libraries. So it eliminated entirely the protected funding for school libraries. As you mentioned, it lumped teacher librarians, essential part of the staffing formula, into the same pot of money as Chromebooks and crayons. And it removed any of the accountability around school boards reporting how they're spending the money and if any money is being spent on school libraries. So when we heard about this new funding model, the Ontario Library Association went into action. We started the Save Our School Libraries campaign to really let people know about the implications. There is a very real possibility that if we don't make any changes in the future, Ontario students will not have school libraries.
Well, we can see the beginning of that. I wanted to let everybody know the number of schools with librarians is actually declining. This was a surprise to me. In 1998, 80% of Ontario elementary schools had a teacher librarian. In 2017, 52%, only half, just over half of them had a librarian. I remember going to the library, and before Google, there was the librarian. She knew how to resource things. She knew where everything was. How does this decline affect students' learning overall?
Well, I mean, and I knew I was among school library kin here, that we are school library kids. And for many parents out there, you have that strong memory of the role the school library played in your life, in your school, how often you went, you hung out there, you did a lot of different things in the school library. But the reality is it looks a lot different now. And over the past 20 years, hundreds of thousands of students have lost access to that school library. But the school library is a key part of student achievement and success. Literacy is a main priority of this government. We know that it drives all of their success in other areas of their lives. So that's a really important connection to school libraries.
Yeah, books and research material can, of course, be addressed by students through the internet. So then how have we modernized the role of a teacher librarian to keep up with the demands of, kids have information on their phones now if they're allowed to bring them into school, or at least on their Chromebooks?
I mean, as I said, the role of the school library is constantly evolving, almost more than any other area of the school. I'm biased, but it really is. And yes, they have access to those tools, but it's those critical research skills that are taught in the school library that you can go on Google, but that doesn't mean you know how to use it or how to search it effectively. So that's what's happening in the school library.
I wanted to read a statement to you from that we received, and then I'll get your response. Ontario's Ministry of Education said this to us. It reads in part, for the 2024-25 academic year, our government provided Ontario school boards $29.5 billion in education funding, which includes funding for school libraries and teacher librarians, with no funding reductions. The number of teacher librarians has increased by 47% since the 2017-18 school year. So what changes then would you like to see to the funding models? What's the concern for you in those numbers?
And you know what? That statement is, for the most part, very true. We are not asking for more money here. This is not a matter of more money being allocated. We are simply asking that sub-allocation of funding specifically for school libraries is made and protected, and that there's more accountability to the school boards on how they spend that money, and that they can report back to us on how many dollars are being spent in school libraries. This government, as they said, has indicated literacy is a priority. It's a priority for school libraries, and school libraries are part of the solution.
And there are stats that support the fact that literacy is on the decline for students here in the province of Ontario.
And that's a strong connection to having a genuine interest in reading and choosing the books that you like to read as part of that.
All right. Well, we are going to let you go this morning, but thank you so much for being here this morning. Michelle Arbuckle, Executive Director of the Ontario Library Association. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.